Jeffs will stand trial coming out of St. George, Utah, where Jeffs is tonight behind bars. And that's where our Mike Watkiss is live tonight with details of tonight's decision. Mike?
Yeah, right you are, Patty, with not a single empty seat in the courthouse and once again under a blanket of very tight security. Late today, a Utah judge ruling that there is sufficient evidence to bind polygamous prophet Warren Steed Jeffs over for trial on charges of being an accomplice to rape. A decision that certainly comes as no great surprise, but a dramatic day in court nonetheless.
Make no mistake about this. Mr. Warren Jeffs is an actor in this case.
In front of a packed Utah courtroom, prosecutor Ryan Sham today vigorously arguing that the state had met its burden of proof and that Warren Steed Jeffs should stand trial on 2 charges of being an accomplice to rape after the polygamous leader allegedly forced a 14-year-old girl against her will to marry an adult man who was also the girl's first cousin.
He told Warren from the very beginning, "I don't want to do this, I'm too young." She said, my heart is telling me no. And he's telling her, your heart's in the wrong place.
But defense attorney Walter Bugden arguing that it was the state of Utah that was wrong for charging his client with a crime in the first place, telling Judge James Shoemate that while his client may have performed the marriage of the underage girl, he did not force the husband that he had chosen for the girl to then turn around and rape her.
There's no proof that Mr. Jeffs knew that this couple was having sex, and certainly no proof that she was not consenting.
But in the end, Judge James Shoemate ruling that the state had met its burden of proof and that Warren Jeffs would stand trial, although he cautioned the media and the public to assume that Mr. Jeffs is innocent until proven guilty.
The state is overcharged against Mr. Jeffs, and shame on the state is what we have to say.
Walter Bugden is the chief defender.
What the evidence shows is that Mr. Jeffs officiated at the marriage and urged the young lady to stay in the marriage and to make it work. He counseled the wife to be loving, respectful, and obedient to her husband. Mr. Jeffs never told the young lady to have sexual intercourse with her husband.
And as far as the state's star witness, this word from prosecutor Brock Belknap.
There is still a long road ahead for us in this case, for the victim and her family. I don't think it would be easy for anyone to discuss the private details of her life while confronting a man she was raised to believe was the mouthpiece of God. She is thankful that this stage of the case is over and is prepared to move forward to trial.
And you come back to us live here in St. George, Utah. Patty, that trial now scheduled for April 23rd. They scheduled 2 weeks for this, and given the 2-day preliminary hearing, they're going to need every day of that. The young woman, centerpiece of the state's case, when she was on the witness stand last month, she was very pregnant with her first child. She's out of the community, has a new relationship. We understand she has given birth to a young, healthy daughter. Hopefully, her health will be better for that trial because it will be a grueling ordeal.
Yeah, and that trial not scheduled now till April, I understand. Mike, I understand the defense made a big deal of the fact that she never used those words, sexual intercourse, but I also understand that there were many members of the FLDS community in the courtroom today with Warren Jeffs.
2 quick points on that, Patty. The bottom line, in that community, in that culture, they don't talk about sex. But she clearly went to Mr. Jeffs, according to the testimony presented in this courtroom, and talked about her relationships with her husband, didn't want to have them, didn't want to marry this guy. Obviously, the judge sort of looked through that semantics, thought that Mr. Jeffs was basically ordering them to go home and consummate the marriage. That's why we're going to have a trial. About 16 members of Jeffs following here, including some women. Haven't seen that in the past. In the full polygamous dress, didn't say a thing to the media, smiled at Warren Jeffs, stood up very erect when he entered the court room and left, but the bottom line, didn't say anything to any of us out here with the cameras.
Lots of drama today, so you'll be back at 6 o'clock?
We'll talk to you again at 6 o'clock, hear more from both the prosecutor and the defense attorney. This is just a real interesting drama on so many levels, and now a crush of media broadcasting this all over the globe. We were here when it sort of started, Patty. It's interesting to see so many people now picking up on this story.
It is just fascinating. Thank you very much for that, Mike.